Coming up down Rookie Already, we're going to take on RB Leipzig, who so far have been a team that have struggled to be in the Bundesliga in our last true test here in the remainder of the league season before we make our way for an international break and come back with the quarterfinals of the Conference League, the first league. So we're actually taking on a team who should be decent in Sevilla. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 71 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Jahn Regensburg. I hope you're doing well, and come up today we've got RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga, a third versus fourth place, still joint on points with them, and Eintracht Frankfurt, all teams 12 points behind Bayern Munich in a Champions League qualifying spot. And then we'll make our way through an international break as well as taking on Bochum off camera before we take on Sevilla away from home in the first leg of a Conference League quarter-final. So if you guys are looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, but this comes off back of the end of last week. We took on both Borussia Dortmund as well as Bayer Leverkusen. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Got a draw there against Bayer Leverkusen away from home before a couple of really impressive 3-0 wins, including in front of the yellow wall there over Borussia Dortmund. So that did leave us in a pretty good spot there inside of a Champions League qualifying position. And off the back of that, we've done pretty well, as you can see, albeit we did lose one game, albeit considering the situation from the first leg of that Conference League round of 16 tie, where we did take on RZ. I felt like it wasn't something worth coming back for, seeing as we picked up a 3-0 win away from home there, goals there to Levente Toff just before halftime, and then with about 20 minutes to go, brought on some first team players off the bench, and thankfully they made an impact for us. Fabian Fernandes and Louis Jorquera picked up goals. So in the end, felt pretty comfortable about that first leg, so we could skip over that second leg as well here on the channel, just make our way straight through to these quarterfinals. It came off the back of a 2-0 win over Gladbach at home in the Bundesliga, goals again there to Jorquera as well as Fabrizio Lucchini. But then our rotation not quite as good there in that second leg against RZ. We suffered a 2-1 defeat, but still go through 4-2 on aggregate. So in the end, it wasn't too concerning. They did score first there in the first half, which did make it 3-1 a little bit worrying. But then early in the second half, Thilo Hasman got the scoreline back out to 4-1. They grabbed one soon off the back of that through Wu Yongzhong, but thankfully just do enough to make sure we made our way through to the quarterfinals of the Conference League. So a little bit disappointing that we've lost a home game there in the Conference League, albeit I say home, we're actually playing an Ingolstadt in this competition, so maybe that's a reason that we weren't quite so good there in that Conference League knockout game. So it definitely looks like going to need a new stadium here at Jahn Regensburg if we want to keep competing in European football. But thankfully got back to winning ways with a 2-0 result over Freiburg. To be fair, this game a little bit weird. Actually ended up going with a 4-4-2 diamond late on, seeing as it was recommended going into the game, but I thought our 4-2-3-1 had been going quite well. But once we went to the diamond, we actually played quite well here and picked up the goals. No one there to Tim Lapule before Fabrizio Lucchini did steal that result there. Deep in injury time, you'll see the analysis here. Certainly got a big burst there in terms of our XG once we did switch to that 4-4-2 diamond. So definitely the diamond here still having a bit of an impact when we do need to use it, but thankfully we've continued to pick up the points there in the Bundesliga. We sit in third position, as I mentioned earlier, joint with Eintracht Frankfurt and RB Leipzig, and 6 points clear of Bayer Leverkusen and Borussia Dortmund, who are going to try and catch us in these last 8 games of the season. But really, we've got one more tough one here with our schedule in the run home, and it's next up, the one we're going to play first up in today's episode. We take on RB Leipzig at home. Now, this is a team that we've really struggled against so far in the save. Last season, we barely got a shot off against them in both games we played earlier this season. A little bit better. It was a 2-2 draw away, so I'm kind of hopeful we can do something here. But they're in some pretty good form, quite similar to us. They're picking up wins in the Bundesliga and have made their way very comfortably past Rangers in the Europa League round of 16. Looks like they definitely should be taking part in the semi-finals, as they have Vitória, I believe, from over in Portugal. That's a tie that you'd expect them to be winning. So RB Leipzig come into this one in some pretty good form. In terms of us, there's a couple of injuries. Of course, Lewis Wallen got injured in that second game yesterday. He's still out for a little while, 5 to 11 days with that twisted ankle, so won't be featuring in the first game of today's episode. Should be backed off the back of the international break that we've got coming up, so maybe he can feature when we take on Sevilla off the bench, maybe, because Sevilla, they look like a team who should be half decent. And Giuseppe La Rosa, our backup boarding midfielder, is out with a tight 5 for 1 to 2 days. But to be fair, we've got some players in the Bundesliga who can cover there, in particular Naba Mensah, who's not registered for the Conference League, but again, should have La Rosa back by the time we come back for that second game in today's episode. So fingers crossed here can continue this really good pitch of form we've found ourselves in here in the Bundesliga before an international break, and then hopefully with the fixtures we've got in and around the Sevilla game, they do look super winnable. So hopefully we can potentially even rotate our team a little bit while that Sevilla tie does take place. But in terms of our team going to this first game of today's episode, Justin Humner's there at left centre back. That's because Cuervo's out with a suspension on that side. Also, we've got Henning at left back because Dawn's on a heavy workload and quite injury prone. Obviously, Nur Lazar comes in for Lewis Walden while still out with that injury. And of course, Lazar should actually be a little bit better attribute-wise as well. So hopefully he can continue some decent form there at that right wing, still sticking with the 4-2-3-1, despite the fact that it didn't quite work as well as I was hoping it would early in that Freiburg game. We just picked up the 2-0 win in, but that was once we did switch to that 4-4-2 diamond this time. This is the formation that should actually work against this team that we're taking on in RB Leipzig. And to be fair, it did work relatively well earlier this season, a 2-2 draw as I mentioned last season. This was a team that we struggled against big time, even more so than teams like Bayern and Borussia Dortmund. They didn't even let us have a shot off, I think, in 180 minutes of this season. We've looked a little bit better here against Leipzig. Hopefully can finally pick up a win over these guys in the Bundesliga, and that would be quite big here with this situation inside the top four. Should hopefully put us in a very good spot for some Champions League football for next season, albeit we'll find out shortly if that's actually something that we want with the squad, because Sevilla is going to be our first real acid test, you feel like, in the Conference League this season, seeing as they knocked out Atalanta in that first knockout playoff round. A good chance there for Fernandes down our left-hand side, but the goalkeeper there for Leipzig comes up there for a good save. I think that was Vandervoort, and keeps it 0-0. And now we go down the other end about 10 minutes later. Roffey down this left-hand side gets marked quite tightly. We put a foot in there, win that ball back. It's a very awkward clearance, not too sure what we're doing. A bicycle kick, but thankfully it goes over the bar. So a little bit there of spectacular work from Leipzig. Thankfully, it does not pay off, so we can actually enjoy that as Lazar picks up a yellow card. So maybe you have to take him off here at halftime. But so far this game, relatively even, just one shot on target. That was that Fernandes one that we had, but it got saved from Vandervoort. And now Leipzig are going to try and make their way here out from the back just past the half-hour mark. They're doing well so far. Find a little bit of space here down the left-hand side. Thought there for a minute we could win that ball there. Costello, though, controls it well, but that pass off the money, and Jimenez can get us back on the ball. A little bit fortunate there that it's found Henning down our left-hand side, but for some reason he takes on the shot. Definitely not a great goal-scoring option, and that one, it looked like, came off the woodwork. So unfortunately, we've had the best chances so far in this game, just haven't quite taken them. As now Alex Jimenez also picks up a yellow card. They float a ball far post here to RB Leipzig from a free kick just before halftime. But again, Jimenez does quite well with an interception. They try and loop it over the top there, though, as we give the ball away. But thankfully, we eventually end up back on the ball. So let's see here if we can break through just before halftime. Lazar here in a little bit of space down our right-hand side, squares that nicely for Fabrizio Lucchini, who picks up his 14th goal of the season, puts that one away in that right-hand corner, and makes it 1-0. So thankfully, we've been on top here slightly stats-wise in the highlights that we've been seeing, and we make it count there just before halftime. Lucchini with a lovely finish there past Vandervoort, who it looked like was paying more attention to Rene Miller in the centre of the box, and we make it 1-0. And thankfully, hold on here going into halftime. A couple of players down our right-hand side are actually going quite well, but on yellow cards. We'll take off Jimenez for Rawlins, and also it's probably a safe idea here to take off Nur Lazar. It will be, though, for Max Meyer. He's currently doing a job as that right winger while Walden is out with injury. So fingers crossed here that Meyer can do a job like he has so often for us so far in this save, coming on usually on that left-hand side. Certainly a player who we should consider letting go at the end of the season. But of course, his homegrown club, that's pretty darn useful for UEFA competitions, and especially going to next season, albeit a few more players will become homegrown club. But now an early corner for us here in the second half. We pick out Ruslan, who heads it home, and that should make it 2-0. For some reason, the camera there, it did linger for some reason. There was no clear and obvious offside, but our players aren't celebrating. That one, for some reason, has been disallowed because Muller has stayed offside. Let's just see here if it does influence the goalkeeper. It definitely does. It's not very clear cut, but it is offside unfortunately, so that goal does get disallowed. Ruslan finally puts one away there from set piece for the first time in a wee while, and it won't count. So fingers crossed here, Muller hasn't just cost us a goal. Maybe need to sub him off there for Levente. Toffee continues to do that, but thankfully back on the attack just off the back of that goal that did get ruled out, but sloppy there from Hawkera. It does mean that Leipzig are back on the ball, and Enrique here gets in behind far too easily and cut apart here from that highlight on the counter attack, and Baumgartner will put that one away. Should have probably been 2-0 down the other end, but Muller just straight offside. And now Leipzig on the counter-attack. Really the first time in this game they've been on the attack off the back of that weird early highlight, a poor clearance. They tried a bicycle kick this time, a much more conventional attack here from the team in the energy drink blue, and they make it 1-1. That does feel a little bit harsh. Off the back of that, we'll take off Rene Muller, because not too happy with him off the back of being the reason that Ruslan goal did get disallowed. He's also on a 6.4, so Toff can come on up front just as that goes through. We've got another set piece, and Ruslan will head this one home, and no sign of a VAR check. So thankfully, a bit of justice there from earlier, and we do get our lead back and make it 2-1. So thankfully, that counter-attacking goal that Leipzig scored, pretty sloppy from us there in terms of our defence, doesn't prove too costly yet. We take a lead here again over Energy Drink FC. Let's hope we can continue and finally pick up a win over these guys again in set piece. Looking for Ruslan at the near post. Can't quite pick him out. But then Fernandez with a shot off the assist from Maya. It won't count though as an assist because it's taken a deflection off Castello Lucaba, but it finds its way into the back of the net, and we make it 3-1 as Dortmund actually are struggling to get past bottom place Heidenheim, which could help our chances of Champions League qualification. But that shot, a little bit lucky to get past Van der Voort. Thankfully, get some luck off the back, though, of that counter-attacking goal a couple of times in a row now and make it 3-1. Hopefully a chance now to make it 4. But Leipzig hid that one away for some reason. There's no one back there down our left-hand side. And again, they've got numbers big time here on the counter-attack. They square that one. Baumgartner's shot again. This time takes a deflection, but finds the back of the net. So unfortunately, Leipzig are keeping themselves alive here in this game because we are looking pretty dodgy when we're getting hit here on the counter-attack from set pieces. Big deflection on that shot that looked like it was from Rawlins, the Australian. He's been okay since he's come on, but that doesn't get counted against him as an own goal, unfortunately, because that would have been quite useful, giving me a reason to take him off. But to be fair, we've only got 2 subs left as Hubner picks up a yellow card, so Pavicic can come on for him. I think we'll save our last stoppage up just in case there's an injury or we need to make another sub later. As we found out during the course of last week, that's probably not the worst idea, and Lucchini drops down to red heart. We've still got about 15 minutes left, but I think we'll make the sub here and potentially bring on Alanas for Lucchini and switch Max Meyer into central midfield because Fernandez can do a job at right wing. So we'll do that with our final sub. Leipzig now actually evening this game up quite a bit here in terms of stats with 10 minutes left. As we usually do, we'll slow things down and time waste just a little bit, but hopefully can find a way here to actually pinch one more goal and make it 4-2. But to be fair, a win over Leipzig, I'll be quite happy with anyway. It looked like there might be a highlight here. It's about to make our way to the final 5 minutes. But before that goes through, we'll time waste even more, drop our tempo, be more disciplined, and put our wing backs onto full backs instead and see what happens. The highlight continues, and we actually win the ball there off Leipzig from a pretty average goal kick. So fingers crossed here, we might do something before those changes. They do go through Hawkera to Ruslan, and now we try and get something going there down our right-hand side. Fernandez, our position, but does quite well. Rawlins fizzes in there for Max Meyer, who continues to do some pretty good work for us here as an impact bench player. He puts that one away, and that should seal it like we were hoping for as he makes it 4-2. So finally, might be picking up a result here against RB Leipzig. Fernandez, some good work there to keep that ball down our right-hand side. Finds Rawlins, who picks out Meyer, who buries that one in the top left corner. So thankfully, that slightly unorthodox change we made there, it has worked. Obviously, some interesting stuff going on while Walden is out with his injury. But it looks like, and we do indeed, pick up a 4-2 win over RB Leipzig. So that's a big result considering the rest of our run home here in this Bundesliga season. To be fair, it felt like a game we were pretty well in control of. Just those couple of counter-attacking goals there that Christoph Baumgartner scored, which kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. But apart from that, a pretty good performance, especially in the second half, scoring 3 goals. And we just do enough there to pick up a 4-2 win. Very happy with that. It should get easier off the back of the international break as well. So fingers crossed there's no big injuries while our players go on international duty, likes of Ruslan, Joshua Rawlins, albeit he is a backup. So really, if he gets injured, that might not be the worst thing. But also the likes of Nurlazar, seeing as Walden is about to come back from injury. If he got an injury as well, that would be pretty typical. But for now, we go up to second on 57 points as Bayern. They drop points at Stuttgart. We're 10 points behind, probably still way too far behind to be thinking about a title challenge late this season. But hopefully we can come back and pick up a result when I take on Bochum off camera before the first leg of our Conference League Quarter-Final at Sevilla. So we finally pick up a win there over RB Leipzig first up in today's episode, but before we actually go forward and I play Bochum off camera, I forgot, it's actually time for our youth intake here with Jahn Regensburg. It just came through off the back of that game against RB Leipzig. Here's what it looks like in the inbox. There's a couple of top talents now. Most of them are at left wing, which is a little bit frustrating, but to be fair, Max Meyer these days, not that much potential, so maybe a future replacement for him there on that left-hand side as a third or second choice left winger. Alessandro Miranda is apparently the top prospect, albeit only has 3.5-star potential, so might be second in line here from the youth intake at left wing for this season, but he looks like a handy player with that potential in the top flight, even though only 2.5 stars that is gold. Stefan Elderbing, though, might be a little bit better with that 4-star potential and 3 stars of it yellow. You can see there he's got good teamwork. He might be the pick of this year's youth intake, and also someone else will definitely pick up is Johannes Eibner, who is a centre-back, 1.78 metres tall, so to be fair, he's not too big yet, but still only 15 years old. But we'll see how he ends up being. So a couple there of good players coming through our youth intake. Almost looks like a little bit there of a young German Liam Lawson without the porn star moustache, but definitely he might be an interesting player there in Johann Eibner. A couple there with 3-star potential, Luca Buchner, who is another left winger, so not too sure if we'll pick him up given that, and also Thomas Abrecht, who is a bit more of a central midfielder, but really those are probably the only guys that will sign from this year's youth intake. Quite a few who are absolutely useless, but there's our youth intake here this season at Jahn Regensburg. Quite a few decent players, but most of them at left wing. And we are back from the international break here, and here's the first game that we did play in the Bundesliga here as we took on relegation zone Bochum. Got off to a hot start here, Renee Müller being slotted through to make it 1-0, but then we kind of went to the pick a bit here just before half-time. Delinga here gets in behind our defence, squeezes that one nicely for Nagamina, who puts that one away and makes it 1-1. And then 5 minutes before half-time, we actually went 2-1 down. Poor work there from Fernandes trying to help us defensively. Not a good idea, but thankfully we actually responded and kept it at 2-2 here before halftime. Lazar squares that one, and Fernandes makes up for that mistake. So locked up here at 2-2 at halftime, which was a bit concerning. It took us a wee while here to get going in the second half, but eventually we did Fernandes there again with a goal making up that balls up in the first half. And then with 10 minutes left, we finally put this game to bed. Horkera picks out Henning, who had a wonderful game, and squares it for Renee Müller, who also picks up a double and makes sure we come away with all 3 points. So definitely an entertaining game first up there off the back of an international break. We definitely deserve the win, just very leaky with the chances that we did concede, but it does mean that we still find ourselves in a very good position in the Bundesliga. We're pretty close now being guaranteed some European football for next season. Really, it's guaranteed because Augsburg aren't going to catch us, and Cologne are definitely going to be playing European football in the Conference League, it looks like. So we've definitely got Europe again here next season, but it's looking pretty good for the Champions League, I dare say, because 7 points clear of Borussia Dortmund, and there's only 6 games left, so definitely in a good spot there to have some big European nights here at Jahn Regensburg next season if we are still here. But next up, we've of course got the Conference League, the first time that really we start to focus on this big time here in the South, because earlier this season we're in a pretty good spot in the league phase when we took on Atlanta prior to the winter break, but this time we take on a decent team in the quarterfinals in Sevilla. Here are the other ties in the quarterfinals. You'll definitely see the top half of the draw is pretty damn weak. AIK against Genk and Shamrock Rovers against Kukuriki Stankum. That's a team that we beat about 4-1 in our first game in this competition. And then the bottom half is really, really stacked. IK Sirius and Newcastle, 2 unbeaten teams from league phase. They take each other on. And we've got Sevilla, who to be fair only finished 22nd in the league phase. Had to get past Atalanta in the first knockout playoff round, which they did. And then they beat OH Leuvelens in that round of 16 while we're making our way past RZ. But these guys actually doing quite well over in La Liga, despite the fact that John Terry is their manager. They sit 5th, which is not too bad considering the teams who are above them. So really, this could be a bit tougher than it looks considering they were only 22nd back in that league phase. So fingers crossed he can find a way to get past Sevilla, albeit this will be the away league. Might need to come back tomorrow for the second league back at home to make sure we do make our way past these guys. And if we do, I see we're on the strong side of the draw. We'll take on one of Sirius or Newcastle. Probably Newcastle, but that would potentially be a little bit of a final without being the final, considering just how weak that other side of the draw is. So unfortunately, couldn't luck our way there onto that top half of the draw. We're down here with all the big guns. So fingers crossed here can find a way to get past really our first big test here in Europe so far this season as we take on Sevilla. To be fair, it's a little bit disrespectful to Atalanta, but we did beat them quite comfortably. Not too sure if we'll do the same here to Sevilla. And unfortunately, a couple of injuries. Thankfully, Walden, he came back during the course of that winter break, but still is very, very undercooked in terms of his fitness. Only recommended for 45 minutes. But Tygo Land, some sprained the ligaments. That was in a friendly that we played. He's out for 2 to 5 weeks. But more concerningly, Uwe Dawn got injured on German under-21 duty, out for 1 to 3 days. So unfortunately, a little bit light at left back here for this first leg of this Conference League round of 16 tie. We are going with our 4-3-3 because apparently that's what Sevilla are the most vulnerable against. So you'll see there, we've still got New Lazar at right wing, and as well as that, we've got Henning there at left back. And also Cuervo is still missing on a heavy workload. So Pavicic comes in there alongside Ruslan at centre backs. Definitely got some tall timber, should be quite dangerous from set pieces in this first leg, but we'll see how we get on away from home here against the team that sit 5th in a pretty darn good league in La Liga. So hopefully you can get past these guys here and take an advantage back to the Jahn Regensburg. Of course, wherever else we were playing, it looked like Ingolstadt from what we saw before in that RZ tie. We actually lost the home league, so it'll be quite nice here to pick up a result away from home. If it's quite close, obviously, we'll come back for the second leg of this in tomorrow's episode. I dare say that's the most likely outcome because Sevilla, they might be quite decent, going a little bit better than Atalanta are over in Serie A this season. This could be a bit of a nervy one for us here a little bit earlier than I was hoping for in the Conference League this season. But our recent form has been pretty good outside of that second leg loss to RZ, which didn't matter too much considering we picked up the 3-0 win away from home. But Sevilla going here with a 4-4-2, which is what we expected from John Terry. I think, to be fair, actually think he might have preferred a 4-2-3-1 or something like that, but we're going with a 4-3-3, so we'll see if that formation actually works as well against one that he might be going with here. A little bit out of character, but it looks like here we'll be in the red, I dare say, and Sevilla might be in the white, seeing as they're at home. Can't actually tell, to be fair, seeing as this one is away from home. Not too sure what Sevilla's home colours are. In fact, we are indeed in the red, so we'll see how we get on here away from home on a big European night. We've got some players who don't enjoy big matches, in particular Wosu Adoro. So to be fair, that could be a little bit of a concern of Sevilla to get a few chances off, and the first highlight is in their favourites for some reason there. I've paused the game by accident. Let's fix that and resume play here. A free kick to Sevilla. They float that one far post, but thankfully it just goes over the bar, and a highlight straight from the restart as we have the goal kick. So fingers crossed here can start to get on the front foot here as we are in the all red. We play it one all the way back there from our right hand side to Owusu Adolo, and now start to try and do something here down our left. Fernandez goes backward a little bit, going to Pavicic, but that pass there, I think it might have been that time from Jorquera, not quite on the money. So it is here Sevilla who are back on the ball, albeit Lopez there with a great interception, a big chance there, but maybe took his time and should have tried to pass it to Muller, because that one goes straight into the path of the Sevilla goalkeeper. So unfortunately can't make the most there of some poor work there from Sevilla trying to make their way out from that. But to be fair, we're on the attack here yet again, looking quite dangerous. As are now in some space down that right hand side. He takes on the shot, and that one comes off the woodworks, off the back of that early free kick to Sevilla. We're actually looking quite good here in this away leg, so fingers crossed soon we can score a goal as Pavicic picks up a yellow card. So maybe Justin Hubner might come on for him at half-time, seeing as Cuervo comes into this one on a heavy workload. Decent ball here over the top, looking for the man in behind from Sevilla, but thankfully a bit too much on it. So Owusu Adolo, he can claim it and throws it out there to Pavicic, on that yellow card. Now we try and get something going here down our left-hand side. Henning starts to make his way in behind, just inside the byline, pulls that one back there for Fernandez, squares it for Nurlazar, still in there, seeing as Lewis Walden is just coming back from injury, puts it away, does the Israeli, and makes it 1-0. So thankfully, our dominance so far in this game, we get a little bit of reward for it and take a 1-0 lead just past the hour mark. Fernandez takes a little bit of time there to set it up with his right foot, picks out Lazar, who bangs that one home into that bottom right corner and makes it 1-0. So stats-wise, I think we deserve that. Hopefully now can put the foot down and grab a cushion goal lead here away from home. Lazar takes this set piece, can't quite pick out Ruslan at that near post. We loop it back in there. It's a little bit hairy-fairy, but just can't hit the target there from that far post here. So getting some decent chances here to try and make this 2-0 before halftime. A throw in now, albeit deep inside of our own half. Thankfully, Owusu Adoro there does find Lucchini further forward and a bit of space centrally. Nice free ball there to Louis Horquera, who stays on side there. Lazar picks up an assist, and we take a 2-0 lead as we were hoping for right before halftime, and then 10 seconds left there of added time. Lucchini got that ball nicely from Owusu Adoro. He picks out Lazar, who just goes backwards, nicely shifting there in between the lines, and Horquera, with a bit of help there it looked like from that near post, will make it 2-0. So all of a sudden, in quite a strong position here in the first leg. Definitely the best team off the back of that early free kick that Sevilla did have. We'll play things safe here and take off Pavicic for Hubner. As I said, Cuervo on a heavy workload, and so far actually looking quite decent here in this game. So fingers crossed we can keep that up in the second half of this game, because that would be pretty good if we could take a cushion goal lead back to the Jahn Regensburg or Ingolstadt or wherever, seeing as we did lose to RZ in that second leg of the round of 16, but very happy with that first half away from home against a pretty good La Liga team. Maybe we're a bit better here in this Conference League than I thought we would be. Obviously, we might need to be, because it looks pretty likely we might get Newcastle in the semis if we get past the Sevilla team, as Fernandez drops down there to a quite deep red hard, so maybe a sub off the back of this highlight as Lucchini is on the attack, tries to curve that one, bottom right corner, it just goes wide, but play things safe despite the fact he's playing quite well. Alanis will come on there at left wing. Hopefully Fernandez not out for too long, but to be fair, we're looking pretty good currently in the first leg of this quarter-final, albeit I say that now down the other end here for a free kick to Sevilla. We hit it away, but they keep on the attack, albeit nice interception there from Henning, and all of a sudden we've got a decent chance here on the counter-attack. Henning is back on the ball here down our left-hand side. We'll square that one nicely for Rene Miller, who's picked up a yellow card, but unfortunately, just like Lucchini earlier, can't quite curve that one into the bottom right corner, and on that yellow card, we'll still play things safe. He's going fairly, so Levente Toff can come on up front just like in that previous game against RB Leipzig, but going quite close here to making it 3-0 in the first 20 or so minutes of the second half, but not quite yet. Now it's Henning who drops down to a red heart, but pretty sure we've only got one more stoppage left, so might just want to hold off here and make sure that we don't get any injuries before we make that final sub as we sneak our way the final 15 minutes. And now there are two players down to red hearts as well as Nurlazar. So I think here what we're going to do with no Dawn is switch Jimenez here to left back. Rawlins can come on for Henning, and as well as that, it's probably a good idea here to bring on La Rosa for Lopez. Just drop that defence. Lewis Walden would have been quite nice if we could bring him on, but we've used up all our stoppages and subs now, so Lazar's going to have to stay up there for the last little while in this game. And now just sneak our way to the final 10 minutes. Good time for us here to start time wasting just a little bit. Would be really nice to grab one more goal, but to be fair, a 2-0 lead going back to Germany is still a pretty handy margin, even though it does mean we probably still need to come back and show you guys that second leg, because there's a chance that we could bottle things if we do not perform like we did against RZ off camera. But now time for us to switch here to slightly lower tempo, go more time wasty, and put those wing backs onto full backs instead for these last 5 minutes of this game, plus whatever the referee does add on. And off the back of doing that, there is a corner for us. Here we go, near post, and Lazar picks out Ruslan, who heads it home. That's the goal that we were looking for. That might just about seal this. We take a 3-0 lead back to Germany if we can hold on for the remainder of this game. So Ruslan pops up there yet again with a goal. Thankfully, his hitting a bit better than it has been the last couple of episodes from last week. We sneak our way here through 4 minutes of added time. La Rosa on an orange injury, but we get through it. That is very impressive away from home against the 5th best team in La Liga. John Terry Not too sure about that move there, going with a 4-4-2, because I'm pretty sure his preferred formation might have been a little bit different. But we've kind of battled the Sevilla at home. We're going to take a 3-0 lead into the second leg. And honestly, with that scoreline, I'd like to think, seeing as we hit a similar one when we took on RZ, that we should be able to hold on. So potentially now we might skip forward a little bit more off camera before we come back for tomorrow's episode. It might be actually for both legs of a semi-final, which potentially could be against Newcastle, depending on how they got on in their first leg, where they took on Sirius, where they did the exact same thing as we did. So to be fair, we should both be going through the semi-finals here of the Conference League. So maybe we come back to that tomorrow instead of a second leg, which now looks like it might be a little bit of a dead rubber as we grab a 3-0 win there in Sevilla. So a couple of big wins for us there during the course of today's episode against RB Leipzig in the Bundesliga before that international break, and now 3-0 over Sevilla in the first leg of that quarter-final tie. You think now that we should be going through to the semi-finals, and it looks like it will be against Newcastle, which really would be a little bit of a final without being a final over 2 legs instead of 1, because really, whoever wins that should be getting past Kukariki Stankham or AIK. It looks like all the teams here are pretty much locked in for the semi-finals of this Conference League. So I dare say what we might do before we come back for tomorrow's episode is I'll make my way through these kind of easy games we've got here in the Bundesliga around that Sevilla game, and also that second leg we shouldn't be blowing a 3-0 lead, and hopefully we'll come back for that semi-final where we take on Newcastle United over 2 legs. Still not too sure there what John Terry was doing with a different formation, because indeed he does prefer a 4-2-3-1. So interesting stuff there from John Terry. It backfired. We pick up a very comfy 3-0 win there over his Sevilla team. But that will do it for today's episode, in a very strong position in the Bundesliga, and now look pretty locked in to be making our way through to a semi-final against Newcastle in the Conference League. So if you enjoyed that one, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Until tomorrow for that Conference League semi-final against Newcastle, you'd imagine over 2 legs, because they're a Premier League team and they have lots of money, so they'll be quite good. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.